All righty, everyone. Good evening and welcome to the Medical Exercise Training Profits and Protocols webinar. This is our first one, so thank you for joining us. My name is Dr. Michael Jones. We're actually broadcasting from our facility here in Houston, Medical Fitness Pros, and this webinar series is designed to help you, the medical exercise professional, build a stronger, more profitable, and successful practice. So tonight we're going to talk about the 7 steps to starting your medical exercise training practice in any setting. So now this is the beginning of 2015. It's January 29th, 2015, and I know a lot of you out there are expecting big things this year. So we wanted to start our webinar series by talking about the 7 steps that you need to take to start building your medical exercise training practice. Now, for those of you that don't know me, I'm a physical therapist. I've been one now for 31 years. Actually, well, I'm sorry, 30 years. Actually, it's our 21st year here with the organization, post-rehab.com. We started out years ago as the American Academy of Fitness Professionals. Now we're the Medical Exercise Training Institute. We're housed here in Houston. Actually, we're outside of Houston, Texas. And for the last 21 years, we've dedicated ourselves to bridging the gap between healthcare and fitness by providing training for fitness professionals to provide safe and effective exercise for managing medical conditions. So as I said, this is our 21st year. We've had more than 10,000 individuals around the world that have taken our courses. So I think I have a little bit of understanding and background as to what you need as a medical exercise professional to get your practice off the ground, okay? So as I said, we're using Google Hangouts for this. So we may have some little patches in the video, maybe a little bit choppy every once in a while just because of the internet. So let me do one thing first. Let me check, make sure we have good sound coming in. Let me cut off our speakers here, make sure everything is off. I think we have a little bit of feedback going on there. Let me just check, make sure our audio is coming in here pretty good. All right, our sound is good. All right. Again, we're talking about the 7 steps to starting your medical exercise training practice. Now, if you go over to the medical exercise training blog, easily done. Go to postrehab.com. Up in the right-hand corner across the top of the screen, you'll see a link there for our blog. If you click that link, the very first blog post, we just posted this about maybe an hour or so ago, is a link where you can download a couple things. You can download actually the session guide for this evening. Okay, we have a session guide. You can actually download the session guide. You can also download the article that we have for this. I actually wrote an article on the 7 steps, so you can download both of those there, as well as you can download the slides for tonight's session. So if you go over to medicalexercisetrainingblog.com, or if you just go to simply postrehab.com, click there in the right-hand corner for the MET blog. The first blog post that you'll see there will be the blog post for this evening, and you can actually download all 3 of those segments, okay? So I'll just link there. If you're listening to this at a later time, maybe out on YouTube, if you go to that website or go to our blog, go to that blog post, you'll actually be able to watch and download the recording for this. Okay, so this thing is actually available to everyone for free. Anyone out there that wants to be a medical exercise professional or is working with a medically based client, we want to give you the tools now to start really building your medical exercise training practice. Okay, so let's get started. Now, one important thing, medical exercise training should not be used in lieu of the services of licensed medical professionals. As medical exercise professionals, we manage clients mostly in the subacute and the chronic stages. We don't manage them in the acute stages. That's to the licensed medical professionals, the licensed rehab professionals. So as you can see, we want to stay away from that idea of trying to provide services that the licensed medical provider or rehabilitation provider would offer. Which leads us now to what is medical exercise training, okay? For the last 21 years, we've been out around North America, and actually have participants throughout the world, and we've been talking about this idea of post-rehab fitness initially, and now it's evolved to medical exercise training. And medical exercise training is very simple. It's development of safe and effective exercise programming for individuals with medical conditions. It utilizes 3 primary components: cardiovascular training, strength training, flexibility training, and it's based on a series of protocols I put together some 20 years ago. Exercise training protocols, and these protocols allow us to manage medical conditions with exercise. It also gives us some common points and a plan that we can use and share with medical professionals so that they understand clearly what the medical exercise training program is geared toward, what the goals of it are, and actually how we administer it. So for medical exercise professionals, these protocols take the guesswork out of it, and it allows us to convey to the medical community exactly what we're doing as we're providing cardiovascular strength and flexibility training for those clients that have medical conditions. Now, earlier, I should say late last year, we introduced the symbol here, what we call the universal symbol for medical exercise training. As you can see here, it indicates strength training, cardiovascular training, flexibility training, and the stethoscope here now means that we're utilizing these modalities in managing medical conditions. So this emblem now, this logo, we now present as the universal logo for medical exercise training. So let's go a step farther and talk a little bit more about this medical exercise training idea. It provides no aspect of treatment, but it does augment physical therapy and chiropractic care. Its goal is to maintain or improve the residual functional deficits remaining after physical therapy, chiropractic, and medical care. This concept here, residual functional deficits. As I said, I've been a physical therapist now for 30 years. I actually graduated from Harvard University back in 1985. So this is my 30th year. What we found when I started physical therapy 30 years ago, the idea of taking a patient from the injury all the way through to their maximum level of function was kind of the standard. Let's change over the years. As many of you know, with the changes in our healthcare system and a reduction in insurance reimbursement, now the idea of taking a client from injury all the way back to full function is unheard of, which means many times when our clients are discharged from physical therapy, chiropractic, or medical care, they have what we call residual functional deficits. These are those functional deficits that are left over after physical therapy, chiropractic care, medical care is over. Such things as limitations in endurance, strength, flexibility, stability, balance, things of that nature. And those are all significant deficits that can limit the capability in their normal activities of daily living, their activities, or even sports activities. So you, the medical exercise professional, your job is primarily to identify the residual functional deficits and then to develop exercise programs to manage. Now, some of the conditions that we see with medical exercise training are osteoarthritis, total joint replacements, diabetes, hypertension, lumbar conditions, as well as a full gamut more. Over the last 21 years, folks, I've seen our medical exercise professionals manage some exotic cancers, some rather unusual joint replacements, as well as some very, very challenging lumbar conditions. But again, all with the situation always involves these clients have physical therapy, chiropractic care, medical care. They still have the residual deficits, and they need a safe and effective exercise program to carry them to the point they reach full function, or their optimal level of function, I should say. So that's what medical exercise training is all about. How did medical exercise training start? Kind of interesting. Years ago, as a physical therapist, I was in the Washington, D.C. area. We had a couple of individuals that we referred out, patients we referred out for exercise. This was in the very infancy of personal training. Well, a couple of these individuals were pretty badly injured as a result of inadequate and inappropriate exercises that the personal trainers provided. What we realized, though, it wasn't the personal trainer's fault. They just didn't have the background and the education to manage the medically based client. And as a result of that, we put together our medical exercise specialist training program, which leads us to how did MBT get started? It was a result of poor program design, also a result of inadequate communication. Me as the physical therapist, I didn't do a good job communicating with the medical exercise professional at that point, the personal trainer, to really convey exactly what we wanted as far as the exercise program. Okay. We also didn't integrate exercise into our treatment programs at the time. We would discharge the patient, move them out of the physical therapy facility. We were doing exercise in our facility. We would move them out for the bulk of the exercise. We then started to incorporate that more into our physical therapy programs, but also we found for those clients that couldn't continue to come to our facility after PT was over, we moved them out to other facilities. And that's now why medical exercise training has become so important. We must start to better integrate exercise into the overall management process or medical management process for a wide range of conditions. Also, we have a lack of client understanding. Many clients don't understand what their exercise program is all about. They don't understand how to properly perform the exercises. Along with that, we saw minimal research into this idea of medical exercise management. How important was it for clients to be involved in a specific exercise program with certain medical conditions? And it was a response, okay? It was a program that was responding to the need to bridge the gap between healthcare and fitness. So that's how medical exercise training started years ago. Who benefits from medical exercise training? Clients. They benefit because it's safe and effective exercise used to manage their conditions. Medical professionals benefit because it integrates exercise in a safe manner and it produces better outcomes for their patients. Insurance carriers benefit because it's a good investment and it helps with the long-term management of these conditions as well as improving wellness. And lastly, the overall economy benefits. As you know, with our changes in healthcare and the Affordable Health Care Act, we're bringing 33 million people onto the health insurance rolls, which means a lot of these individuals will have chronic disease and they definitely will benefit from exercise. And folks, let's be honest, exercise in many instances is more effective and much, much cheaper than standard medical treatment. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying we don't need medical treatment, but I'm saying in some instances, exercise is definitely an important factor and it's an actual and efficient factor and a very economically a very economical option for our clients. So as far as the economy, exercise training helps reduce cost. So now that takes us to step number one. You're out there, you're a medical exercise professional, or you want to get into the medical exercise training arena. You're now sitting there, you may be working in a health club, maybe you go to clients' homes and you're wondering, how do I get started with this? So what I did, I looked back over the last 21 years that we've taught the medical exercise specialist certification and workshop, and I looked at what our successful MESs did along the way to actually build their practices. So we came up with these 7 steps. Now, I'm not going to say they're simple, I'm not going to say they're easy, but there's 7 steps that anyone can actually implement and take action on and make work. So let's talk about step number 1. Okay. Now, if you would, you have a session guide. And in that session guide, there's a place actually for you to take notes. So if you look in the session guide, we have room there for you to take notes. So please, if you would, take notes. And if you have questions along the way, you can actually type your questions into the dialog box that we have there with our Webinar Jam software, or you can email them to me at drmike@postrehab.com. Now, I may not be able to get to all of your questions today. I may have to email you later with answers, but please, if you would, if you're watching this video, particularly after the workshop is over, please email me at drmike@postrehab.com so we can answer all of your questions. The idea of these 7 steps is vitally important for all of you out there that want to build a strong, successful, and profitable medical exercise training practice. Okay, so establish a target medical marketing list. One of the biggest problems I see is a lot of our medical exercise specialists want to go out and they want to do a shotgun approach. They want to send a marketing packet to every medical professional in the community. That means they may send out 50 or 60 marketing packets, and yes, they may get 2 or 3 responses, but the problem is we now have to develop a referral relationship. Not just simply ask the doctor, therapist, or chiropractor to refer clients to us. We have to develop a relationship. We have to know what that doctor, therapist, or chiropractor needs from the standpoint of how he or she wants us to manage their particular patients with certain medical conditions, but also how we'll communicate with them. So with this idea, establishing a target marketing list, what we're going to do is we're going to actually establish this list from our current client files. We're also going to look at the surrounding medical community. So we're going to actually add people or add medical professionals from the surrounding community. And we're going to look at any medical professional that's now is providing referrals to you. And most important, as I said earlier, we don't want to shotgun. We want to focus on 3 medical professionals initially. Now, over the last 21 years, as I've said, we've had a lot of our MESs that have gone out and opened up their own facilities and built successful and profitable practices. Over those 21 years, we've identified the 3 medical professionals that we think are the easiest for you as medical exercise professionals to approach and establish referral relationships with. They are a GP or internist, GP, general practitioner, and or internist. Next on the list, chiropractor. Chiropractors are very receptive to the idea of medical exercise training. Sports med or physical therapist. When I say sports med clinic or physical therapy or physical therapist. We find this is probably the best referral source for most of our medical exercise professionals out there, but this is a hard nut to crack in many instances. And let's be quite honest, there are some territorial issues with physical therapists and personal trainers. And then that's unfortunate. And I think for our MESs, our medical exercise specialists that have gone through our MEST program, they don't seem to have those problems. And the reason is this. It's vitally important that you as the medical exercise professional clearly understand your scope of practice and what you can and cannot do from the standpoint of medical exercise training. Sometimes we have a tendency of encroaching into the areas that are usually the realm of the physical therapist, and also in many instances the chiropractor. So we have to be very careful about that, especially now as we're seeing medical exercise training growing. We're going to have to really understand how to relate to, how to collaborate with other medical professionals out there so that we make sure that we're providing safe and effective services that are within our scope of practice. And one thing I want to go back to, the general practitioner internist here. This medical professional is probably going to give you the most referrals from the standpoint of they probably are going to see more conditions that will benefit from exercise than any other medical professionals out there. The general practitioner or the internist sees individuals with low back pain, that are obese, hypertensive, diabetic, arthritic, have any number of different neurological conditions, and they're all passing through that general practitioner or internist office. We put them first on the list because this individual, this medical provider, is the gatekeeper to the entire medical community. If you can establish a referral relationship here, that means you're going to get referrals from chiropractors, physical therapists, orthopedic surgeons, neurologists, neurosurgeons, because everything now is based on the idea of the gatekeeper. That gatekeeper being the internist and practitioner. It behooves you, when you start looking at developing your target marketing list, that you put at least a general practitioner or internist on that list. Now, we recommend these three because, as I said, we have seen that these three are probably the best for our medical exercise specialists all over the world. You may want to substitute different medical professionals here. That's up to you. But we recommend that you don't shotgun it and try to go after as many as you possibly can as far as developing referral relationships, but you focus initially on just three, and that is if you're a solo practitioner. And most of our medical exercise professionals at this point are solo practitioners. So if you're a solo practitioner, look at establishing referral relationships with these three initially. All right, let's go on to our next slide here. And along with this, you want to review your current client and patient files. Now, when I say patient files, if you're working in a physical therapy or chiropractic setting, client files if you're working in a fitness setting, you want to identify the physicians, physical therapists, and chiropractors that are the physicians, therapists, or chiropractors of records for your current clients or patients. The reason is they're actually low-hanging fruit. They're medical professionals that already know about your capabilities, because think about it. How many of you work with clients that are actually getting better as a result of your exercise programs? They're making progress. They're showing improvement in function. Well, somewhere along the way, they've gone back to their doctor, therapist, or chiropractor and told them about the great job you're doing. And most times, the doctors say, keep doing it. But you've never taken that opportunity to communicate directly with that doctor, therapist, or chiropractor to establish or begin to establish a referral relationship. So look at your files and look specifically for those clients that are having success. They're doing better. Look at their files and determine the physician, therapist, or chiropractor record. And if you don't keep that information in your files, start doing it right away and put that information or put an area on the graphic forms for clients to now tell you who their physician, physical therapist, or chiropractor is. So ask yourself, which of these medical professionals have referred to you? Those are the ones to go after. And if you're out there in the health club setting, maybe you're the medical exercise training director, you're trying to put together a medical exercise training program. One thing I advise you, sometimes developing a medical advisory board is not the answer in getting referrals. And I've seen this happen in a number of health club settings over the years. Health clubs will put together a medical advisory board with the idea that these professionals on the board are going to refer their patients because they're on the advisory board. Folks, it doesn't always work that way. You're still better off to go out there, beat the pavement, get to know doctors, therapists, and chiropractors that are on your marketing list. Get in to see them individually, talk to them, get to know them, get to understand what their needs are, start to communicate with them and understand how to better manage their patients with exercise. And I think you'll be better off in the long run. So step one, establish a target marketing list. Step number two, establish a medical exercise or post-rehab signature program. Now, folks would probably say, well, Dr. Mike, what's a signature program? Give an example. A signature program would be, for instance, we have a back school, a dynamic back school program. What we did a couple of years ago, we looked at the idea of how could we manage medical conditions with finite programs. What I mean by finite programs, programs that lasted 30 days It would have anywhere from 6 to 8 sessions over a 30-day period. The idea with this was physicians, for the most part, write referrals or write prescriptions in 30-day intervals. So as a physical therapist, this was always how we got orders for physical therapy. The orders were only good for 30 days, and then we had to renew the script. And in many instances, that was state law, depending on the state that you worked in. Well, we thought about it. In many instances, physicians are somewhat reluctant to refer their patients for exercise because they don't want their patients to be caught up in long-term deals with health clubs that they can't get out of contracts. Well, we came up with the idea of finite programs. And with this idea of finite programs, the programs that are 6 to 8 sessions over a 30-day period. And then we went a step farther. We said, well, maybe these programs need to look at specific medical conditions. And with these specific medical conditions we're managing, we need to manage them from the standpoint of both exercise and lifestyle education. Hence, we came up with this idea of signature programs. We actually use these signature programs, and I'll talk about them a little bit more in a second. I'll give you a list of them. We promote these programs to medical professionals. We find it's easier to promote these programs to medical professionals than it is the idea of one-on-one MT training. The idea of managing a medical condition in a group setting with a specific number of sessions over a finite period of time, we find medical professionals, particularly physicians, really like that idea. We market this also to our post-rehab and medical exercise training clients. We actually now market these on our websites, and along with that, we actually market these in social media. You'll be surprised how many people out there have low back pain, have undergone a joint replacement, or maybe have hypertension and diabetes, started with an exercise program but have no idea where to go. Market to those individuals too. So again, these packages are finite, they're educational based and exercise structured, which means in every session, whether you do 6 sessions over 30 days or 8 sessions over 30 days, and again, these can be both one-on-one programming or programming. When they start the session, we begin each session with a 10 to 15 minute lecture on a topic related to the client's condition. So for instance, our hypertension and diabetes program, we have 6 sessions that are performed over a 30-day period. 2 the first week, 2 the second week, 1 the third week, 1 the fourth week. 6 sessions, 30 days. With that, the beginning of each session, the sessions are 75 to 90 minutes in length. The first 15 minutes is a lecture delivered by one of our medical exercise specialists on a topic related to the condition that is focused on in that particular exercise group. After that 15-minute lecture, and remember, education, after that lecture, then we start the exercise program as a group. So what the client is getting here is both exercise plus education, which is going to give us a positive functional outcome. In every instance, it gives us a positive outcome. And the key here is this idea of education is what the doctors, therapists, and chiropractors really want. And we're starting to also see insurance carriers like the idea also. So we call these in our facility here, Medical Fitness Pros in Katy, Texas, we call them our MedFit group training programs. We have Dynamic Back School. It's designed for individuals that are suffering from back pain or undergone back surgery. We also have a total joint and arthritis program for those individuals that have had total hips or total knees, or are pending total hips or total knees, or trying to avoid a total hip or total knee. And we also have a hypertension, diabetes, and obesity program. Now, here's the interesting thing. We market our Dynamic Back School to physical therapists, chiropractors, orthopedic surgeons, physiatrists, massage therapists. We market our total joint replacement and arthritis program to orthopedic surgeons, physical therapists, internists in the community. And we market our hypertension, diabetes, and obesity program. We market that to internists, cardiologists, anyone that's working with the client that has hypertension, diabetes, or is obese. We also market this to our bariatric surgeons. So by actually putting together a signature program, what I mean by signature, this is the program that you're known for. This is the program that clients come in for. They're going to get better. They're going to show improvement. So it's our signature programs. We actually market these to medical professionals as well as those individual medical exercise or post-rehab clients out there. Now, with this signature program, we also want to develop this with medical professionals in their mind. So think in terms of diagnoses and conditions. Now, folks, if you're going to go out there, you want to develop a medically based medical exercise training practice, you have to now start thinking in terms of diagnoses and conditions and how you can help manage those exercise. So how can your programs help manage their patients? So take your expertise, put it in a bowl, mix it around with the equipment you have, with the skills you have, and also think about the patients doctor, therapists, or chiropractors have, and you want to come up with programs that understand their needs. So you're telling the doctors, we understand your needs and the needs of your patients from an exercise standpoint. And your job as a medical exercise professional is to manage medical conditions with exercise. So an example I gave you earlier, a dynamic back school. We found our dynamic back schools helped a lot of people. We also found that our hypertension and diabetes program, we have internists in the area that refers people to this program on an ongoing basis. So if you want more information, go to medfitgrouptraining.com. You can actually get more information on our programs. They're available to purchase. We'll even personalize these programs for you and take you step by step through each process of the program so you can start delivering it in your own community and start communicating with doctors, therapists, and chiropractors and start getting referrals. So that's step 2. Step 3, develop an introductory letter and marketing packet. Now, this is one I find for most of our medical exercise specialists, this is a big challenge. Basically, in this introductory letter and marketing packet, you want to say who you are, what you do, who you do it to, and how you do it. It's as simple as that. That's what you're going to say. Who you are, what you do, who you do it to, and how you do it. Now, that's simple. Remember, medical professionals don't care about your certifications. They only care about the results you produce. Simple as that. Nothing more. That's all they want. We did a survey several years ago amongst orthopedic surgeons in the state of California. None of them talked about the importance of having a certain certification to do medical exercise. Their biggest concern was, would you be able to produce the outcomes? Would you be able to produce a safe and effective program? And most importantly, would you communicate effectively with the doctor, therapist, or chiropractor? That's all they were concerned about. Nothing about your certifications. So when you start putting together your introductory letter, who you are, what you do, who you do it to, and how you do it. We actually have a sample letter at the, I believe it's on page number 8 or 9 in our session guide that you actually look at. This is a letter we've been using now for the last 20 years. You give this sample letter to all of our medical exercise specialist participants, and they can modify this letter any way they see fit. It goes through these items right here, and we find these letters have been very successful. At least this template has been very successful. You actually have that in your session guide. I believe in your session guide, it actually is on page number, it's actually page number 8. Okay? That letter is going to be very helpful for you. Also with step 3, you want to look at the components of your marketing packet. Now, this is important. With your marketing packet, you want to make sure you include your introductory letter. You want to include at least 3 referral pads. Now, referral pads become very important, okay? The referral pad itself, and we have an example of this, is the last page in our handout, okay? We actually have blown this one up, so we've enlarged it. The referral pad itself, or the referral form, is nothing more than a quarter-size sheet of paper that now you can give to the doctor, therapist, or chiropractor. They can fill it out, give it to their patient, and their patient now can use that to come to you for medical exercise training services. Notice we've noted 3 here. When you go out and you make that initial visit to the doctor, you drop off your marketing packet, include 3 referral pads. One hopefully will go on the doctor's lab coat. One will stay at the nurse's station in the doctor's office, and one hopefully will stay on his or her desk. So always going with 3 referral pads. Including your kit, business cards, your brochure, and with that brochure, make it not so much fitness, but more along the lines of medical exercise training. Also, MET flow charts. These MET flow charts come from our medical exercise training protocols. We actually put together 60 protocols that are utilized by our medical exercise specialists out there in the field, and it gives them specific guidelines, strategies on how to manage medical conditions or specific medical conditions with exercise. It provides progression guidelines, assessment guidelines, and even looks at the idea of what we're looking at as far as determining if the client is appropriate for exercise. So if you want to get more information on our medical exercise training flow charts as well as our protocols, go over to medicalexerciseprotocols.com and you can get more information. Also include, and this is a controversial one, a price list. Now it's kind of interesting. Most doctors, if you start trying to get medical referrals, they're going to ask you, are you an insurance provider? Do you accept insurances? And in many instances, right now in 2015, not all aspects of medical exercise training are covered by insurances. We are finding some health insurances are covered from medical exercise training. Next month, in the month of February, we're going to talk about medical exercise training and insurance reimbursement for you guys. So we'll talk about that next month. We're finding some insurance carriers are paying for it, but not the majority. So at this point, we still need to let doctors, therapists, and chiropractors know how much it costs for our services. So do include a price list. Don't try to hide your prices. It's not going to do you any good to hide your prices because they're going to come out anyway. So let the doctors know what it is you're charging for the services, or the therapists or chiropractors. And lastly, your marketing kit, include a flyer of your signature program. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we have 3 signature programs, okay? A dynamic back school, a total joint replacement and arthritis program, as well as a hypertension, diabetes, and obesity program. So when we go out to doctors and we make our pitch, we're going in trying to get referrals. If we're talking to an orthopedist, we're going to include our total joint replacement and arthritis flyer. If we're talking to a cardiologist or an internist, we're going to include our hypertension, diabetes, and obesity program. If we're talking to a physical therapist or a chiropractor or a back surgeon or neurosurgeon, we're going to include information, or flyer, I should say, for our dynamic back school. So when we look at this signature program, one of the things you want to look at down the road is developing multiple signature programs. Remember, we talk about signature programs in step number 2. Step number 4, research the practitioner and the practice before making contact. Now, I know everybody wants to get out there, these packets off to the doctors, therapists, and chiropractors. But hold on, slow down a little bit. You need to do a little bit of legwork. Okay? So you need to determine the specialty of the practice. What do they specialize in? Not just simply is the doctor an orthopedist, but from the standpoint as an orthopedist, does he or she specialize in pediatric orthopedics, or do they do more total joint replacements? Get an idea of the specific specialty or subspecialty of the practice. Also, identify the office manager. Circle this one. The office manager can be your best friend, or they can make your life miserable. I was in private practice for 14 years, and my office manager had the best interest of our patients, the practice itself, and my best interest at heart all the time. If she let you in to see me, then that meant that you had something, a service or a product that was going to be beneficial for the patients, the practice, and also for the staff members. So get to know the office manager. Find out who that office manager is, because down the road, this is the person you're going to direct a lot of your correspondence to, a lot of your phone calls to, and this person is the gatekeeper. Make them your best friend. And lastly, determine the most common patient type in that practice. It's no sense going to an orthopedist that sees primarily individuals that have closed head injuries if you want to go in and talk to that orthopedist about referring clients to your dynamic back school because you thought the orthopedist or neurosurgeon was actually doing more back surgery when they were actually doing more closed head traumas. Think about it. So find out what the specific or the most common type of patient is seen in that practice. Let's take step number 5, make the presentation. So at this point now, you've done your research. We're going to go backwards here. You've put together your marketing packet. You've also you put together your introductory letter. You've developed your signature program, and you've established your target marketing list. So now you want to look at this idea of the presentation. Okay? Remember, it's not about you. Okay? It's not about you. It's not about your certifications. It's about what you can do to help that doctor, therapist, or chiropractor manage the patients in his or her practice with exercise. First thing, remember, let's do lunch. Circle that one. Folks, we've gone on a number of marketing visits, myself and our medical exercise training director, Kimberly Carpenter. We've gone on a number of them over the last several months. In many instances, if you can get an office manager to agree to let you come in and talk to the staff at lunch, they're going to want you to provide lunch. It's just part of the game. That's why I put this one here. Let's do lunch. That's what they're going to want. They're going to want you to provide lunch. Get used to that. It's a part of doing business. It is a tax deduction for you. And I know some of you will say, well, Dr. Wright, I don't have that in the budget. But stop thinking about this. We actually found one of our clients here actually has a She actually makes healthy foods. Okay, she does a great job. We actually have now contracted her to provide the meals for our luncheons, and they're great meals. She has a number of different a menu that we can choose from. I mean, we're fantastic. So now we're actually giving one of our clients some business, and we now take these meals in, and they're healthy meals that we're serving to the medical staffs. Okay, so over these meals, and we're doing the meal for the entire staff. At maximum, we've seen staff that have maybe a dozen people. Okay, and that investment in the meal is worth it. Because stop and think about it. Suppose that doctor, therapist, chiropractor, or even one of the staff members refers a client to you, and you're charging, say, $50 or $60 per session. They end up doing 8 to 10 or maybe 12 sessions with you. Was the lunch worth it? It was. So get used to this idea of doing lunch. Now, review the clients you have in common with the practice. Also, it's about your outcomes. Tell them the outcomes you're producing for these clients you have in common. It's about your communication. Tell them how you're going to communicate with them. Tell them about your progress reports. Tell them about the session logs. Tell them about how you're going to stay in communication with them. It's about your program design. Show them that medical exercise training flow chart so they have an idea of what your program design is based upon. And it's not about your certifications. They don't care. They don't know. They care about program design, communication, and outcomes. And one of the best ways to get your foot in the door is to talk about clients that you have in common. For instance, today, myself and Kimberly went out and delivered a couple of progress reports. When we go into these offices, and Kimberly is normally the lead, she goes into the offices, the first thing that she says is, we have a progress report for one of Dr. X's patients. That immediately disarms the folks at the front desk that are normally gatekeepers. They don't want to let you get too far into the practice. But when you have a progress report for one of the patients in the practice, which means you're communicating, they now have to accept that. And that allows us in many instances to break the ice and establish a time that we can maybe come back and do a presentation. Okay? So those progress reports will work well. And the way we get in sometimes to make these presentations is by delivering progress reports. We'll talk about those in just a second. But once you get in there, you've got to talk about the outcomes you produce, how you're going to communicate in the program design. Okay? That communication is going to be vital to you down the road. So step number 6, complete the medical exercise specialist training. Now, hey, it's self-serving. Let's be honest. Our program is probably the oldest one out there. It's been around for the last 21 years. Folks, I'll tell you, the information that we provide and what we see our medical exercise specialists do with this is phenomenal and amazing. So if you would, with medical exercise training, you've got to understand the clinical anatomy and pathology of the conditions that the clients will have. You have to understand how medical exercise training protocols and guidelines work so you can progress the clients through the exercise program. You also have to be able to identify the inappropriate client by understanding what red flags are. These red flags are vitally important. And you have to understand how medical exercise training and its protocols work so you can manage clients better. Notice the term I use, not train them, but manage them better. Now, we've got 2 certifications. Our medical exercise specialist certification, go to www.medicalexercisespecialist.com, or our entry-level post-rehab certification, www.postrehabconditioningspecialist.com. Get information there, or just go over to postrehab.com, click the link there for certification from all of our programs. We have online training, we have on-site training. The key thing is this. Let's say you've been a personal trainer now, 3, 4, 5, 7 years more. You work with the apparently healthy client. That's what you've been trained to do. Working with this medically based client is a completely different ballgame, and it does require you have a great understanding of anatomy and pathology. You understand how to utilize protocols and progression guidelines. You understand how to assess that medically based client, and most importantly, you understand how to produce outcomes, communicate those outcomes to their doctor, therapist, or chiropractor. So it is very important you get the necessary training and don't keep trying to. That takes us to item number 7, or step number 7. Establish a medical communication flow. Now, this is important. Once you start seeing clients, you're getting referrals that are coming in from the doctor. It's your responsibility, it's your professional responsibility to maintain or establish a communication flow, which means When you assess clients, you're going to need to write an assessment summary. And that assessment summary, you need to get into that doctor's hands within 72 hours of the client being referred to you and you completing the assessment. So you complete the assessment on Monday. That assessment summary needs to be on its way to the doctor no later than 72 hours after the doctor. Progress reports. Now this becomes important. Every time you see a client, okay, clients referred to you every 30 days, you should do a progress report that shows the doctor, therapist, or chiropractor how well the client is progressing with regard to the condition they had that they were referred for. Okay? This should be done every 30 days. Discharge summaries. Yes, when you finish with a client and you're finished with one, and that doesn't mean they can't come in for a continued fitness program, but you've finished the one-on-one medical exercise training, you should write a discharge summary. And that discharge summary should relate back to the things that you found in your assessment, the goals that you established in your assessment. You're now going to rehash those goals. You're also going to rehash those findings and say, this is how well Mr. Smith is doing and how well he's progressed toward those goals we established in the assessment. This usually should be in the doctor's hands within 4 days of the completion of the discharge. Also, follow-up sessions with your MET clients. Have at least 2 sessions scheduled ahead for the client. That way you always know what's going on. You always know when the client is coming back. And it makes it much better for continuity of managing or continuity of care. And establish regular communication with medical professionals through your blog posts, sharing research studies, and even inviting them to your staff meetings as guest speakers. So we have a good friend who's a physician's assistant and an oncologist at one of the cancer centers here in Houston. She agreed to come over and do a presentation for our staff members on some of the latest advances in cancer. Now, she works at one of the most well-known cancer centers in the United States. She's going to come over and make a presentation to our staff, but her physicians, some of the other physicians, and also the physician's assistants on her staff are already referring clients to us. So what this does now, it allows us to establish an ongoing communication flow, and most importantly, helps us fine-tune our protocols, but also keeps us in the mix so we can get more referrals from this medical group. So you can see all of this becomes vitally important along the way. So now we've got to these 7 steps. None of them are too big that they can't be done, but they can be broken down into smaller tasks and broken down into more actionable steps, and that becomes important. So these 7 steps are pretty easy. I got a couple things here. The MET commandment. Commandment basically says, manage the condition, train the client. What that means is this. For every condition, we have a protocol or a management plan for that condition. But as you know, maybe you have a client who's had a total hip replacement. He is a 52-year-old male. You have another client who's had a total hip replacement. She's a 63-year-old male who's also a female, who's also diabetic. Are you going to manage the total hip replacement the same? Yes. But are you going to train the clients a little differently? Yeah, one client is diabetic, one client is not. So please, if you would, think about this all the time. Manage the condition. This should be standard across the board. Whether you're in Victoria, British Columbia, you're in Miami, Florida, you're in Washington, D.C., or you're in Canton, Ohio. When you're managing a total hip replacement client with medical exercise training based on the protocol, the management process should be the same. But you're going to tweak that protocol to meet the needs of that specific client. That's what we mean by train the client. That's our MET commandment. Next, real quickly, pricing. You need to establish a distinct pricing schedule for medical exercise training. That means the following. Medical exercise training requires a different approach and a different management. You now have to look in an entirely different manner. You now have to take into account the anatomy and pathology, and more importantly, you have to communicate with their doctor, therapist, or chiropractor. So a couple of things. Okay? For MET sessions, we recommend that you charge 20% higher than the going rate in your community for personal training sessions. For the MET assessment, we recommend you charge 25 to 50% higher than the going rate for a personal training assessment. So for the MET assessment, 25 to 50% above cost that you would normally see for a personal training assessment. Now, you need to look at what the prices are in your region, and based on those prices, MET prices accordingly. Now, some people will say, whoa, Dr. Mike, I can't charge that much. Well, stop and think about it. Let's say you do go through our NEST program. There's a lot of work in there. It's a lot of hours of watching video, a lot of observation hours required. There's a difficult exam along with a number of quizzes and other projects that you have to complete, okay? So it does give you more information. It does allow you to produce better outcomes, and you should charge a higher rate because you're now taking on more responsibility. You're managing the client in a greater capacity, and hopefully you're producing better outcomes. And most importantly, you've got to continue to communicate with those medical professionals. So we feel like this model is justified. But remember this, there are going to be clients that will come in seeking your services that are not the high-end CEOs. They don't have six-figure incomes. They're a retired school teacher. They're a retired bus driver that Dr. Smith saw, replaced his or her hip, and referred him to you. But remember, Dr. Smith is the same physician that did the same total hip replacement on the CEO of that Fortune 500 company that's coming in too. Dr. Smith says both clients need medical exercise training. So one of the key things as we move forward in this concept of medical exercise training getting bigger and expanding and getting more clients, we now have to start thinking not of just the high-end client. We now have to think on a fixed income that needs the same services of that high-end client. So I urge you, with this idea of pricing, start looking at ways that you can now bring clients together into groups, medically based groups, so that clients that are on fixed income can receive the same services, get the same outcomes, and more importantly, you can still collaborate with the physicians, therapists, and chiropractors, not just on the high-end clients, but on those clients at the lower end of the socioeconomic scale. We want to continue to be cherry pickers and only take the best cherries. We need to make sure that we allow medical exercise training to be available for all clients out there, okay? Lastly, the 5 keys to MET reimbursement. Now, we're going to talk about this next month, but I wanted to throw this in there, okay? So if you're seeking insurance reimbursement for MET services, or the scenario doesn't meet these 5 criteria, don't even think about it. It's not going to work. Number 1, you have to have a written referral from the client's physician. So you have to have a physician's referral. Number 2, the client should have sustained a major trauma, undergone surgery, or have a long-term condition. The reason is this. If they haven't had a major trauma, they haven't undergone surgery, there's no long-term condition, the insurance carrier is going to kind of look at it and say, well, they're going to get better in spite of what happens. Okay, whether you do medical exercise training or anything else, they're going to get better. So the insurance companies will normally say, well, for exercise, we're going to reimburse if they have a major trauma. This means something like a disc herniation, a fracture or something along those lines as a major fracture, let's say a femoral fracture. Or they're on surgery, an ACL tear with the ACL reconstruction, or a laminectomy. Or they have a long-term condition, maybe something along the lines of degenerative joint disease, or maybe something along the lines of fibromyalgia, okay, or maybe hypertension or diabetes. It's a long-term condition. Next, the client has already received the maximum benefit from physical therapy or chiropractic care. What that simply means is the insurance company doesn't want to circumvent physical therapy or chiropractic care. They realize the benefits of physical therapy and chiropractic, but they also understand the benefits of MET. Physical chiropractic work great in the acute, subacute realm in the early stages of the chronic cycles or stages. MET primarily works during the chronic stages. It's when those clients have finished with the acute and subacute stages, they benefit most from MET services when they get to the chronic stages, which is saying here, they've already received the maximum benefit from PT chiropractic care. Now it's time for medical exercise training. Next, residual functional deficits. They still have limitations in strength, flexibility, endurance, balance, stability. They need MET, but they may not need physical therapy at this point because they progress beyond what physical therapy can provide. They now need a structured exercise program. And lastly, the client is not covered by Medicare, Medicaid, or any government coverage. And I say that government coverage for our Canadian friends. At this point, folks, medical exercise training is not provided by licensed professionals. And without a license, Medicare, Medicaid, or even any government coverage is not going to reimburse you for your services. Okay, so I want to give you a quick overview of insurance reimbursement, because if you're going to start building this practice, you're going to follow these 7 steps. Eventually, at some point, you got to think about this thing with insurance reimbursement. And more importantly, we're going to talk about this in our session next month. You probably can't see this, But if you go over to metprofitsandprotocols.com, you'll actually get information on our segment for next month, when we'll talk about medical exercise training and insurance reimbursement. Keep this in mind. Exercise is the key to long-term management of most medical conditions. We've seen our healthcare system go through some significant changes. We also see with those changes, our healthcare system is still in trouble. We as medical exercise professionals, fitness professionals, have to step up to the plate now. We've now got to start working with doctors, therapists, and chiropractors. No longer can we say, well, the doctors don't want to listen to me. No longer can we say, well, there's not much I can do. We now got to kind of step up to the plate now and say, hey, Dr. Smith, therapist John, chiropractor Susan, we can help you with managing these medical conditions because we've taken the proper training, we understand how exercise fits in, and most importantly, we know that exercise can produce positive functional outcomes for these clients. So you can start talking to the doctors, therapists, and chiropractors. As I said, get the proper training. Go over to medicalexercisespecialist.com, register for the program, but more importantly, get out there and start communicating with the doctors, therapists, and chiropractors, and also communicate with other medical exercise professionals. Now, a lot of you out there want to build practices. Let me give you some information. We started our MedX Pro network 2 years ago. The network is designed to help medical exercise professionals, build their practices in any type of setting. This webinar is the first step in helping build a practice, but also it's offered by the network. Along with our MedX Pro network, we also have an online resource system for medical professionals called Post Rehab Works. It's part of our MedX Pro network membership. We also have a medical exercise jumpstart program. We actually will work with you one-on-one as well as in group settings. These are normally done over the phone or Google Hangouts, but we help you clarify your vision for your practice and then implement the action plan for your practice so you can actually get your practice off the ground. We also have medical exercise training systems. For those of you that have your own facilities, we realize in many instances, making that transition from a fitness facility to a medical exercise training facility requires that you put a lot of systems in place. And if you've never done it before, it can drive you nuts. So you may want to take a look at the MedX Pro Network just to learn the systems involved in managing a medical exercise training practice. And then lastly, our MedX Pro Summit. We have one coming up here in Houston in October 2015. We just had one here in October 2014. And it gives medical exercise professionals a chance to sit down with like-minded individuals, talk about their challenges, their problems, their concerns, their successes, but also get good information at the same time. So if you look at medicprotocol.com to get more information, and more importantly, go over to our blog. Go to postrehab.com. We've got a blog there where we're sharing information that can be helpful and beneficial to you in building your medical exercise training practice, but more importantly, connect with medical professionals. Okay? So thank you for listening in. If you have any questions, email me at dr@postrehab.com. Let's see if I can answer any questions right now. Let's see if we have any questions at this point. I don't see any that we've had come in. I think we have some that come in by email, but I'll be able to answer those tomorrow. Okay, with that, folks, we're going to conclude for the evening. Thank you for joining us. If you have any questions, please email me at drmike@postrehab.com, or also please check out our MedX Pro Network at medxpronetwork.com. But more importantly, understand medical exercise training is growing. It's getting bigger and bigger. We're seeing medical professionals are embracing the idea. We're seeing the general public is embracing the idea, but also we're starting to see insurance carriers are paying for it. So these 7 steps we've given you now are just the steps to get started. There are infinite possibilities out there for you. So please, if you would, take the network. Also, go over to medicalexercisetrainingebook.com. We have an ebook that we published. That ebook answers 101 of the most common questions medical exercise professionals have had over the last 20 years. I think we did a great job giving you some information in that ebook that you can use right away. So again, thank you for joining us. Best wishes building your medical exercise training practice. If you have email me at drmike@postrehab.com or give our office a call at 1-888-610-0923. Again, good night, folks. Thank you for joining us. Bye-bye.